You're Yeah. Awesome. All right, we are live again in the Promise Startups Conference. So thank you everybody for joining us. So this is going to be interesting. Woohoo, indeed. I'm really grateful because we're joined by Mr. Ken Evans, who brings just a plethora of experience in the business community to us today. And so we're going to be able to hear from several business owners and kind of talk about the business. And so Fatima, thank you so much for volunteering to be a part of this. Do you want to share a little bit about your business and then we'll kind of get into it?
Okay. Good morning. My name is Fatima. I'm a graphic designer and also photographing. I started this when I was in school. So slowly. I have 3 kids. So it's a little challenging, but I don't want to give up on this. But I'm getting there slowly.
And welcome again, everyone. Ken Evans here. For purposes of this, I think what may be relevant is, I've been an entrepreneur and a business owner myself. A couple of decades ago, I started a business doing real estate development as a consultant. In addition to that, I partnered with some other individuals. Plus, I invested in my own business, a small, decent amount. And then last but not least, I was the president for the Urban Chambers. So what I try to do is connect people to potential resources. And I'll share this. One of the things I did while I was there is we had a event that we call Meet the President. And typically what I would do is I would sit and listen. I repeat, I would sit and listen, and then I would try to respond with some ideas for resources for people to get unstuck and move forward. So I think I'm going to enjoy this, and I'm hoping I can share some things. And for yourself, Fatima, you mentioned the fact that you started it slowly but surely, and then you also mentioned the fact that you have family. So what I would suggest to you is that's the way a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs get started. They have other jobs or they have other obligations, and they have to fit having the business in around that. And so time management is a big thing. But I'll go back to something I said before. Whatever you do, don't quit. What I would also suggest is, sitting here right now, do you have an idea for what you want your revenue generation to be monthly, quarterly, and annually for your business?
Well,
and
yes
it's okay if you
no.
say yes and no, or
Yeah. Well, obviously before I was in the medical field, so since I was 19, so I want to do way better than that.
Okay.
So they were paying me 18 an hour. So yeah,
Okay.
I try to charge at least 50 an hour or more, So whatever, I would probably say monthly, at least over 4,000 to start,
Okay. All right.
And then annually, my goal at least over 100,
Okay.
Woo,
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. Okay. So here's what I would respond to that. First and foremost, once again, homework. I'm big on homework. Show of hands, how many people are familiar with doing a Proforma or Proforma? There's 2 ways to spell it. PRO space FORMA or Proforma, PERFORMA. So I see one hand in the back and just a few others. Here's what I would encourage you to do, even if it's in its most basic form, is I would encourage you to do a Proforma or a Proforma for your business. So in your case, Fatima, what I would encourage you to do is, here's how basic it can be. What are your expenses? And then let's say you have to pay for office space, or even if you have a home-based business, pay yourself for that, meaning have your business professionally pay you personally to use one room for your business. Put that in your Proforma for your business.
Yeah.
And last thing you do is talk about the revenue. And then what you're going to do is you're going to say, in order to make $4,000 a month, I need to see X amount of clients. Your Proforma will help you figure that out. And then ultimately, you'll also be able to take the $100,000 a year, which is approximately $8,250 a month. So what you'll readily see is that I need to double the $4,000 per month in revenue. But it all goes back to, how many people here are pretty proficient in Excel, Microsoft Excel? Okay, just a few hands. Excel will help you do your Proforma. But if not, maybe there's some other tools that you can find. But the bottom line is, to help you get unstuck is put it on paper, put it into something that you can tinker with it. Like the last thing I'll say is that if you have Excel and you have a section for revenue, and let's say it says that group photos, I need 100 clients. Family portraits, I need 50 clients. And then individual headshots, I need 50 clients. And whatever you charge, that's going to help you build your Proforma, and then in turn figure out if you have a sustainable business model or not. So I hope that's helpful
Yeah,
to
that's
you
a lot of help.
and others as well.
Thank you.
Can I ask a couple questions? Can you tell us a little bit? So a big part of, getting to the Proforma is, having an offer, like a standard offer. And can you talk a little bit about what your offerings are, like pricing and deliverables?
Okay. Well, I have several stuffs, but I do like a little bit of everything, so a little side hustle. So I could do like the logos, like I could start like 150 to like 250, depending on the design or how easy or how hard it is. And then a business card, it starts like 75 for like 250 business cards. Enough, And then I do custom t-shirts too, so it could range by like 18 to 25, or it depends, and on the orders too. And then for photographing, usually start with like 175 and above.
Mhm.
But I just added the mini session, so 75 and above. Yeah.
Okay. So here's what I'm going to encourage. I'm glad Elias asked that question. I was talking to one of the gentlemen in the class about what's efficient and what's effective. And they're two different things from a business standpoint. And so here's what I'm going to suggest or ask you to do. Here's your homework. We just started the month of May.
Mm-hmm.
For the month of May, I want you to track the number of clients that you get in each category for each type of client. So how many logos do you do?
Mm-hmm.
How many complicated logos do you do? How many t-shirts? I want you to track all that for the month.
Okay.
At a minimum, and you may want to do it longer, but here's what we're getting at. There may be things that you can be really effective at doing, but they're not efficient in terms of the amount of money that you keep for the amount of work that you put into it. And what I'm hoping you'll be able to do is, when you get to the end of the month of May, you'll be able to look back and say, how many things did I do for each type, and which one of them were the most efficient things for me to do while still being effective in terms of the quality? Because here's ultimately where you're trying to go. I'm not telling you that you can't do all those things,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes as entrepreneurs, especially when it's just us, we chase after all these, we think everybody is our client, and we also don't want to turn any money down. But what you may find out is, I think I heard you mention about 7 or 8 things.
Yeah.
Okay. You may find at the end of the month of May, maybe a little bit longer, that what you should focus on is 3, maybe 4 of those things, because they're the most efficient way for you to make money and grow your company. Mm-hmm. And get to those targets you talked about.
Okay.
Yeah, if I could add one more thing to that, because I'm in a similar field, right? Like I do some graphic design as well and some marketing. And so when I started my company, TechStart, and I, went at it again in the past 2 years, the first thing I did was similar to what you did, which is like, what are all the things that I can do? So I listed it all out. Like I could do flyers, I could do a website, I could do this, that, and I spent a lot of time on this, and I put together literally a 40-page proposal document that was like, these are all the things I could do, how I could do them, how much I sell them for, etc. And then I went to the market and I started selling, and then I was like, okay, I got this website project here, I got some flyers here, and when I looked back, exactly what Ken is talking about, I realized my time was split up in so many different ways. It became ineffective, and I had to take a step back because I wasn't hitting my revenue goal. And so what I did was I asked myself, are clients hiring me because of finishing a flyer for them, or are they hiring me for a desired result that they want? And of course, clients really don't care about the features or the things that come with whatever is being delivered. They care about the final result. So I started talking to some clients, and the final result that I realized my clients wanted was to just have their digital presence established. And so what I did was I consolidated all of my offerings. Like, I had all the basic offerings, and I created a high ticket offer for $3,000. I would do all of these different things to give them that result. And then I started selling that. And that was so much better because, it wasn't custom for every client. It was like, these are the things that you're going to get delivered. B, the profit margin was there because if I had 2 clients in a month, I hit more than 4,000 in that month. And so I would just, I didn't stop, but I didn't. If somebody came to me and said, "Hey, can you just do this one flyer?" And if they're a friend or if they're a client, sure, I got you. I'll do that one thing. But that's not where I made my business money. Where I made my business was selling a result at a high ticket level and then repeating that and then getting testimonials to get more of that. And so as you continue to map out your services, it sounds like a lot of what you're offering could be like a business launch or like an office package, right? You could do headshots for the office, give people business cards, a real estate office could do that. And then you can charge more because you deliver more and you're selling them on a result. And then maybe you can earn more money from that.
Yeah. I was searching around on like other graphic designers on the social media, and I seen that, and I was thinking about doing a package like that. And that's a good idea.
Absolutely. And something I want to leave you with and everyone else with is cheap is not better, especially cheap
Right.
clients.
Right.
And I see the head nods. One of the lessons I had to learn, I want to say maybe is less than I think I was a year in business or less, and I was broke. One of the things I try to do is share the tough times as well, because entrepreneurism is no joke. I was dead broke and turned down a client because they were going to be a difficult client. To your point, Elias, about client expectations. I kid you not, I was better off turning down that client that was going to be a difficult client, even though I was dead broke, because let's say I had taken on the client, there's such a thing as going out of business out the back door is what they call it, which means you take on a difficult client, they're never satisfied, and whether they hurt you financially or worse yet, whether they hurt you reputation wise, either way, you go out of business out the back door. So
True.
definitely.
True.
I hope this is.
Yeah. Fatima, do you have any questions for us or anything else you want to share with folks?
No, I just want to say thank you. These are good tips. And I did have kind of like an idea about that, but I wasn't sure like what exactly. But I think that's made a best like for new beginners for business. And I noticed, especially my new clients are like the ones that are beginning. So I like this side of helping the new beginners. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you. Give it up for
Thank you.
Fatima. All right. Who would like to go next? Introduce your business and, whatever you want to brainstorm on. And, hopefully we can help you uncover new things. And also hopefully this can be some extra exposure as well, because we are sharing this on the Nevada Partners Facebook page and also on the Entrepreneurs News Network on YouTube. All righty. Welcome.
Happy to be here. My name's Jayante Johnson. My company is called In Crowd Media Company. And I do film and I do some services that kind of pertains to my question. Right now, my main focus is like my product, which is the projects that I'm working on now. And I work a job, I have a son. And so it's kind of hard for me to transition from, working a 9-to-5 and providing services for people because, like you said, you have customers who can be demanding, and it's a lot easier for me to just focus on one side of things right now as far as just the product. You know what I mean? Is in my own personal projects versus taking on clients right now. So how do you transition from any advice on transitioning from working a 9-to-5 and trying to supplement that, your regular income with income from providing services to clients and things like that?
Yeah, I'll hop in to get us started. I actually made that I made exactly that type of transition. I'll say there are two fundamental ways to make that transition. One way is to go what we call cold turkey, which means Friday, 5 p.m., you cut off your old engagement. Monday, 8 a.m., or as entrepreneurs, you start whenever, usually early, but you start that entrepreneurial journey. That's the cold turkey way. There's no transition. On the other hand, I have a real good friend of mine. This individual, what he would do is he'd work his 9 to 5, and then he slowly but surely started picking up consulting work from, say, 6 to midnight or 6 to 6, which means here's the way he managed his transition. And you can do this in your own way. He kept track of his revenue for his primary employer, and then in a manner that prevented conflict of interest, because you don't want to do that with your previous employer. But he kept track of his revenue from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And literally there were times when he worked those hours on top of his regular position. But when his revenue for his new venture equaled and then eventually gave him a cushion, that's when he transitioned away or stepped away from his primary employer. So it can be revenue based, especially if you have obligations, like you said. On the other hand, I knew it was coming because my employer was going to close their office, but I knew I wanted to stay in that space. So what I had to do is try to save up. They tell you traditionally have 4 to 6 months in savings, and this, it doesn't have to just be savings. You may have stocks or something like that that's liquid, but I tried to make sure that I had some liquid assets. So since I was going cold turkey, I had enough time. And then I tried to get a client too. That's another thing, is if you're going to do the cold turkey method, try to identify a client or clients that can give you enough what they call backlog, that you have ideally a year of operating revenue. That does two things for you. Financially, it makes sure that you can support yourself personally and professionally. But most importantly, if you're always stressed financially, it takes away from your ability to perform. So for me, I wasn't worried about performing, which enabled me to stay focused on my clients and running my business, as opposed to what they call keeping the lights on type business. And I'm not saying you can't be successful that way, but because of the way you asked the question about a transition, I'm just giving you some food for thought about how to manage the transition in an ideal world.
Happy to add to it if I may. I also I had a job 2 years ago. For the 2 years prior to that, I was working for a company, and I knew that I didn't want to stay at the company, or more so, I knew that I didn't want to stay at a job. I wanted to move into a business. I think entrepreneurship is interesting because in our culture, we talk a lot about like, oh, don't work the 9 to 5, just hustle and grind and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's actually kind of toxic. Working the job, is an opportunity to get paid to learn, and working a business under duress of paying the bills is extremely terrible, because not only will it be challenging on your finances and managing the cash flow of your business, but it can be challenging on your relationships with your clients. And I've seen business owners, make some mistakes, like sign deals that were not in their favor because of the financial duress. And so I would really say, a job's actually really good, especially if it's in alignment to your why. If you take the Promise Startups class, one of the first things we talk about is we have the Simon Sinek video on Start with Why. And it talks about what is your why? What is your mission? And what's even cooler is if you can get a job that is in alignment with your why and in alignment with your mission, and you can be building up your reputation in the industry that you want to be in without conflicts of interest. I think that's an ideal scenario. Some of the folks that I've talked to that I thought were doing really well in their business, I've talked to, like one individual comes to mind. I did a podcast with him. He's not from here. He's like on the East Coast, but he was VP at Kaplan doing like data management for them. Plus he had his like data science startup. Plus he was investing in real estate. and he was just working full time, and and it was like all of those things were in alignment. Like his business was in alignment with his job. And so if there's an opportunity to do that, I would encourage definitely looking at, doing that. I would also say it's, essentially endorsing Ken's method of, working the 9 to 5. I don't have a kid, so I'm, this might not be as easy for people who are parents like yourself, but figuring out, if there's additional time, whether that's in the morning before you start your job or in the evening on a daily basis, so you can move your projects along. And then you mentioned one other thing that I picked up on, which was projects for yourself versus projects for clients. I would say that's super like underrated. Like definitely do projects for yourself, especially if you can find ways to monetize it. But you have to have awareness of the type of individual you are. I know for me, like if I owe somebody something, that's a higher level of pressure for me. I'll make sure I get it done along the timelines that I know it needs to be done, versus some of my personal projects sometimes don't have the same level of pressure. But that's just me understanding how I operate. And so I would just consider that. And then I would say one last thing that I got from an individual named Joseph Hackner, who's in Colorado. He does Tech Alley in Colorado. And when I did a podcast with him, you can find it on our YouTube. And he blew me away because I was like, hey, so what's your business about? And it was one of those things. I was like, dude, back-to-back interviews. So I didn't get a chance to like pre-vet people. Somebody was like, hey, talk to this person. He's amazing. I was like, okay, I trust you. Let's do it. So I like jumped on this live stream. I was like, so what do you do? And he's like, what do I not do? And for me, I hate it when people do that. He was like, okay. But he had like 30 businesses that he was invested in. And he shared something with me that hasn't left, which is we gratify work as if work is the result, when sometimes there's ways to create a business or create a project that can pay for itself, like get it to live for itself, fulfill itself. And so I'd love to learn more about your, you said film business. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about your business model or your services, and we can give you some more feedback from there.
Well, as far as business model go, my business is fresh. Like I just got my LLC. Maybe it's barely a month old.
Oh, congratulations.
As far as like I said, I'm planning on providing services. Before I started my business, I was providing services for like friends like you.
What kind of services?
Music videos, weddings, things like that. Consultation, things like that. Some photography, not much. I can do it. My friends who know I can do it, I do it for them. Just things like that. But right now I'm filming a series, and I plan on putting it on Tubi. I've done my research on how to do it and what are the requirements, and we're on our second episode now. Ooh. And so far it's going pretty well. I'm pretty confident that I'll be able to generate some revenue. So that's one of the reasons why I haven't been focusing so much on the services part of it, because I'm like, if I get this done, then maybe I won't even have to. I can do services when I want to versus, but I've looked up how much people are generating just off of, independent projects, and I may be able to generate enough to sustain just off that. But when doing that, you don't really know until you're done and everything's uploaded, and so I'm trying to get to that point to gauge which one is going to be my focus, so I don't do too much and burn myself out.
Right. One of the cool things about what you're working on is if you can achieve success in your Tubi film, and it's a success just putting it out there.
Yeah.
And then whatever that level of success is, it definitely raises the bar on your services, because you have a proof of concept. And so you can sell, you can demand more because you have a proven track record. So that's definitely really exciting.
Yeah. And what I was going to hop in and say, and it builds on what you both were talking about, is begin with the end in mind. And what I mean by that is I want every single person in here to think about what do you want your retirement to look like? Those that really know me know that about a year and a half ago, I started what I call my definition of retirement, quote unquote, season. But I started working on that about 35 years ago, plus or minus. And as crazy it sounds, I want all of you as entrepreneurs and business owners to think about what you want your retirement to look like. Start first with the question, what do I want my lifestyle to look like? Where do I want to live? What kind of vehicle? Or do I even want a vehicle? We have Uber and Lyft. Or if you're like me, Uber, Lyft, but because of some health things, I take the bus, but I take the bus so I can walk. I try to walk 2 to 3 miles a day. So again, what do I want my lifestyle to look like? And then in turn, because we are in a capitalistic society, how much revenue do I need to generate either actively or preferably passively to support that lifestyle? And again, it may sound crazy to you. I haven't even started my business yet, and he's sitting up here talking about retirement. But I'm doing that for 2 reasons. Number one, as a general rule, entrepreneurs and business owners, especially if you're what they call self-employed, meaning you created a job or a position for yourself, typically they don't have retirements. And so they're steadily on the grind, or maybe they're 30 years into it and they're frustrated because, quote unquote, they can't stop. Yet they want to retire. So that's part of the reason why I'm saying it. And then the other reason why I'm saying is because it is possible. But you just have to think right now, what do you want the end to look like? So when you're doing your Proforma or your Proforma, however you want to pronounce it and spell it, you can include in there, do I need to have an individual retirement account or an IRA? Do I need to have what they call a SEP IRA, which I think is a self-employment plan IRA? But I'm tossing these things out there because I want you to begin with the end in mind. In your case, you have children. So do you need to have a college fund as a part of, I know it's crazy, some would say, but it's not crazy. Trust me, if you begin with the end in mind and build your business in that way, even if you quote unquote fall short, but I don't see it as falling short, you just got to a different point, you're going to be in a better frame of mind, because by the time you are ready to pull back, you'll have the option to do that.
Well, that's it. I don't think I have any anymore.
All right.
Thank
so
you.
much. Would anybody else like to go next?
I have a question.
Sure.
Actually, like being part of it, but a question to what you just said, to like piggyback to that. Because actually,
Wait till it gets.
Here you go.
okay, I just have a question, and I would like to piggyback to what you just said. Like you were saying, to have an idea or create an idea, ways of to see where your life would be, or what do you want your life to look like at a certain time, right? Starting as an entrepreneur person. But what do you tell someone that actually did not get the opportunity to start it from an early age, and they're in a mid-age point, but they still have dreams, they still have desire, they still want to continue, and they want to go, and they feel they can be a blessing to others? What would you tell them, and how would they establish that?
Okay, great question, and I'll restate it for those in the room and online. The question was, what do you tell someone, or what would you suggest to someone that is maybe a little bit further along in life, but they still have dreams, they still have a vision, they still have things that they want to do, maybe along the lines of retirement. It could be donation goals or philanthropic goals, or it could just be family goals or community goals, whatever. What do you tell them? First and foremost, I tell them, start where you are and go from there. And then the next thing I would suggest, I'll go back to what I said a few seconds ago, is write it down. Take the vision. Part of the reason why, so the pot's not calling the kettle black, or however that saying goes. I went to the Air Force Academy, and fortunately, one of my classmates, he was a couple of years before me. This was, I think I was in my 30s, early 30s. So it was about 30 years ago, a little less. He said, Ken, he did the same thing to me that I'm suggesting you do. He said, Ken, what do you want your retirement to look like 30 years from now? And at the time I was on active duty, so I was thinking active duty, but I, migrated away from there. But I said, okay, I want this lifestyle, I want this amount of income. And in my case, I said I wanted it to be passive income. All right. Because then that way, as a friend of mine likes to say, a very dear friend of mine, I'm at a point now where I get paid to breathe, which means as long as I am here, certain revenue is going to come in. And obviously that's an ideal. Everybody may or may not be able to do that, which gets to the second part of your question. If you're in a midlife phase, like let's say maybe you're 35 or 40 years old, so you have to go from that point in life. What it means is you still have to follow those steps, but possibly the mechanisms are going to look different. And what I mean by that is you may have to figure out ways to make more income in a shorter period of time so that you can carve out some of that income to put in an IRA account or to put in a SEP IRA or to maybe get some stocks. Or, for example, one of the investments that I have in my portfolio, and it's speculative, is I invest in companies that are like emerging companies, but they're scalable. So the idea is if you invest in 3 to 5 or more companies like that, maybe maybe 2 of them get your money back. But if one of them can experience exponential growth, maybe you get 10 times your money back. But it's speculative, meaning it could go away. So you don't want to do that with 100% of your portfolio. But what I'm doing is I'm suggesting that you have to look for vehicles that are going to make up for the fact that you don't have as much time. Now, did everybody notice how I gravitated to Kazia? Did I say that right? Kazia? Kazia. I got it. I. Did everyone notice how I gravitated to her in the presentation? I did that on purpose because Kazia has time on her side, as well as some of the other young people in the room. So one thing I'm going to suggest to all of you, if you have, yeah, absolutely. An investment isn't just the stock market. It can be in helping Kazia have her own business. And then maybe that's part of your investment as well. I mean, we know the stories of parents. I mean, 2 quick examples. I know everybody in here has knowledge of parents that have invested in either their children's entertainment ventures or definitely their sports ventures. Well, why not invest in Kazia's entrepreneurism venture? Planting some seeds there. So then that way, to the point of your question, and I'll wrap up here, what we're doing is we're leveraging the amount of time she has versus someone that's in there a little bit more seasoned. So I hope that planted some seeds. It's still possible. You just may have to do it a different way, or whoever it is. And Kazia, I got that right? I'm gonna be looking for that comic book.
Might happen sooner than you imagine.
She thinks I'm kidding, but how many people can tell how serious I am? How many people have a feel that I'm the type of person that whether she quote unquote succeeds, fails, whatever you want to call it or not, how many people have the type of impression I'll invest in her comic book just to have her do it?
Love it.
That's how my parents did with me. Real quick story. I was similarly oriented. My idea was I would take the backs of those postcards that were blank, and I had Time Life books and encyclopedias, but in particular I had the Time Life books. And I would draw pictures of birds and animals on the backs of those cards that was blank. And then, I figure out after the fact, my mother and grandmother would get the friends of the family in the neighborhood to purchase those for me. And I was doing this, I want to say I was in the 2nd or 3rd grade. What grade are you in? What grade? Okay, 5th grade. So we're about in the same space. So that was my first entry to entrepreneurism. And that seed never died. It took me a while to get there because I didn't start my own company until I was about 37, 38 years old. But the seed was there. I hope I'm planting some seeds with what I just said.
It's awesome. Does anybody else want to share? Yeah, Leroy? Yeah. You want to come up or do you want to just speak on the mic? Yeah, come on up. Give it up for
Absolutely.
Leroy.
Hi, I have a question about just me about someone who is young and trying to start some. Like in every way, I know that there will be problem and there will be success, but how to develop my business or how to get more people interactive with it.
Okay. So let's start with and this is great. First of all, congratulations. To me, it's a success that you're here and that you just came up to the front of the room. So let's celebrate that success. One of the first things I'm going to say to you is I would not judge your initial success based on your revenue. And I know crazy, I get the for-profit. At your age and where you are in life, I would judge your success by how much you learn and increase your knowledge base. Because one of the things, something else that's in my background for what it's worth is I have a master's in business administration or an MBA, and I got it during the time I was affiliated with the military, as well as I was studying to get the MBA at the same time I was trying to open my business, which, man, that's crazy. Time management, I think everybody understands. But here's where I'm going with that. The point is I was learning to learn. And then in addition to that, as it relates to you, is one of the things you learn is that getting an MBA is about learning business models and the fundamentals of business. And what I'm suggesting to you is, how old are you right now? If you're
15.
15, so you're a sophomore?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So if you're 15 and a sophomore in high school learning business fundamentals, in my mind, I'm less concerned about that immediate business working. What I'm more concerned is you will understand firsthand as an entrepreneur the fundamentals to launch a business. Those lessons can be applied to any type of business. And what does that mean? I went to Iraq in 2008, and over there I did pretty well income-wise, and so I had some money kind of stashed away. I get back to Las Vegas, and I have some friends of mine that had a business idea. Well, because I had some business fundamentals, I'm going to be honest about it. We were doing promotions. I don't understand promotions at the time. I'm a geeky, nerdy engineer. That wasn't me, but I understood business and a possible opportunity. And that's what I'm suggesting to you is if you're learning these things and being exposed to these things right now, whether you directly start a different business or indirectly, as I did, invest in someone else's idea or business, you're leveraging the fact that you learned some things while you were still young. So to me, that's the definition of success. Now, here's the bonus. If you do start a business, whether it's the comic book like your sister,
Yeah.
or whether it's back of postcards like myself, whatever your idea may be, and it does do well, so much the better.
So I have one more question. When I walked in the room and I sat down, what inspired me was like I'm one of the out of the less younger children in here, right? So when I came in and you asked me what type of business do I want to do, I said I want to inspire more children like me to do more stuff. So that there could be more children in this room and have more choices at a younger age, because sometimes we don't have time on our side. So to start quicker makes you get a bigger business at the most of y'all age.
That is correct. So what I would encourage you to do is two things. First of all, do some research, and you may have already done it, which if you have, kudos to you, but do some research on the types of businesses that either A, will appeal to young people, or B, could actually employ young people, or maybe even C, they do both.
Yeah.
Because then that'll give you an idea of a business model or a business idea that you can pursue and you can build that'll do two things. It'll draw youth and young people to you. But beyond that, you're going to be creating some jobs and opportunities for other young people like yourself. So I think if you do that or move in that direction, that's going to put you down the pathway of ensuring. Here's the bottom, not bottom line, but here's one other thing to consider. What would have attracted you? What attracted you to be here on a Saturday, other than maybe mom and dad? But let's take them out the equation. What would have? Let me ask you. What would have attracted you as a young person to be here today?
Just more of the support and what my future would look like.
Okay. All right. So what that means is, as you're thinking about ideas, what kind of a business idea or what kind of a business concept can you make sure that kind of energy is present so you can put that out in the atmosphere and basically draw young people like yourself into a room like this on a Saturday to flush out some ideas that you can move forward with. And where I'm going with this is success breeds success. And let's face it, as a young person, it might be the ability to have a car or money in your pocket or whatever. As adults, especially seasoned adults, sometimes we fight that. No, let's not do that. Let's support a young man like this and some of the others. Whatever's going to excite them and get them in a room like this on a Saturday, let's roll with it and support them. And I'll stop there.
Thank you.
Can I share a couple more things? So, Leroy, I was also a kid entrepreneur. I started like my entrepreneurship journey probably like when I was 11 years old, buying and selling Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon cards. And then I learned web design, and that was clutch for me, like so clutch, I promise you, because I was like 14. I was able to make $1,000 in a weekend. Like that's how clutch that was, knowing web design. And the same applies to you, whether that's web design or now there's NFTs and there's all sorts of new emerging technologies that folks are willing to pay more for. And if you can learn it, you'll be a lot more competitive. But what I actually want to share with you, and I want to share with everybody, is this common thing about entrepreneurship. And it's a common thing about anything, whether it's a new relationship we're starting or it's a new job we're starting or whatever it is. We get into it super optimistic, right? We're like, oh man, this thing's gonna be amazing. He just said I can make $1,000 in a weekend. I'm gonna be killing it. And yes, you will be. But as you go through it, there's gonna be things that come up, right? And those things are gonna knock you down sometimes. And sometimes, a lot of times, people get knocked down and then they quit. And so you got to figure out what are those things that you can tap back into so you don't quit. And the fundamentals of that, I think, are twofold. One is like, what is a big why? Like something that if you think about that's like bigger than you, bigger than all of us in this room, that you can fall back into. So when then, that business knocks you down or you struggle or the website got deleted or, you had a business partner that didn't show up or whatever it is that happened that makes you feel bad and be like, oh man, this whole thing that was going to be so successful is now not as successful. And because it's not what I thought it was, I'm going to quit. You got to have something that you can lean back into to say, no, the reason why I'm doing this is for whatever it is, it's going to be different for you. It's different for everybody. So you have to find that why that calls you. And then when you find that why, what also helps is adding some values, some core values to that why. So for me, like some of my core values, so whenever I have a bad day or a good day, I just think about my core values. And some of my core values, one is ABL, it's always be learning. That was one I've always had as a kid, just continue learning. What Ken said of like learning new skills, you can start stacking skills over time, and those skills will become more valuable as you stack skills. So always be learning, keep moving forward, progress over perfection. Those are some of my core values. You can come up with your own core values and your own why, and it'll help you kind of navigate, those ebbs and flows, that roller coaster ride that is entrepreneurship or anything that you decide to pursue. But congratulations. And if you want to do a youth event, we are here to support you. This is the community incubator. We'll love to host you.
I have a comment on that. So, what you said is why, right? That is like more of support. Nowadays, most of us is like, oh, we want to do money. We want the money to get rich, right? And more youths like my age go in singing, right? And to inspire that, it's not just singing, or you have to pick in life. You have choices, and like my mom, she's a big support in my life. Thank you. and she support me every way. If I want to do this, she will support me. She asked me, "Do you really want to do it?" And I mean, you really need more people like in your life like that supporting you, which will slow you down, which you don't like sometimes, but you have to agree with it because it will help you under the day. And what I like is the why. Why would I stand up and go? You know, because not only in the future it can help me, but it can help me right now to get my knowledge up, you know, and not just sitting here not knowing what's up. And so I have y'all teach me about it so I could teach somebody else when I'm older.
Pay it forward.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, yeah, the pay it forward piece. That's the reason, and Elias knows this. I consider Elias to be one of my next gen leaders and entrepreneurs, and I'm constantly pouring into the next generation. So here's what I'm going to share with you. You mentioned the thing about money. Let's face it, we're in a capitalistic society. In fact, I tell people all the time, I believe in capitalism. I'm a capitalist, but I have a conscience. And what that means is that I try to make sure that I use part of my time to support things like this. And so here's what I'll share with you. Do not, I'm not saying you are, but don't fight the fact that as young people, the money is the motivator. Okay. It's just pleasing and good to hear you say that for you. It's a bit more involved in that. At the same time, because of what you just said, we all have a vested interest in supporting you so that you can create jobs or opportunities for your peers. Why? Because once you get the hook, you'll be able to spread the message that you have. But you need to get them in the room or get them in the space first. So from that standpoint, we have a vested interest in helping you be successful, whatever your business is.
Thank you.
All right, give it up for Leroy. All right, so now we're going to take a break. We got some figure looking good barbecue on the other side. You can pop over to room 101. What I ask y'all to do is just leave Annie's Kitchen a review on Google Review and Facebook. Give her 5 stars, show her some love. And yeah, we'll take a break. We'll do, once everybody's settled down, we're going to eat lunch in the room across the way. And then we can facilitate some pitch practice in that space. Thank you, Ken, so much for doing this hot seat with us.
Thank you all very much for having me, and best of success.